I'd like to hear your thoughts on what the appropriate level of financial regulation is. Some believe Congress has not done enough to prevent another financial crisis or more bailouts. Others argue Congress has put too many restrictions on financial institutions. What is the right amount of financial regulation, and why is your plan the best approach?
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm not a laissez-faire capitalist. I recognize the need for regulation, but one thing that we do know about regulation is that it increased the cost of doing business. And that increase in cost of doing business isn't born on the backs of businesses on their own. It's passed down to the working men and women of this district, of this state, and of this country. Now, we can take a look at the Sarbanes-Oxley financial regulatory bill that has 40 sections for rulemaking, but I think it's best to look at the Dodd-Frank bill, which has 400 sections to make rules from. Now, look, to be quite honest with you, I don't think anybody here who used to have free checking, now doesn't have it, can see the effects of the financial reform bill. It hasn't worked, and you can look at the J.P. Morgan situation this summer with the $6 billion trade that happened. The federal government cannot regulate bad behavior. Bad behavior regulation starts with good corporate oversight and good governance in the corporation. I personally think that the financial crisis was driven off of derivatives. And I've said time and time again that this could be a one-page bill. Derivatives are good when they're used to hedge your risk and manage your risk with an asset. When they're used to be traded as assets themselves, that's when troubles start. So you cannot buy an option, being a call, a put, a straddle, if in fact you are not using it to hedge an underlying debt instrument or equity.
Congresswoman Tsongas?
Well, I think we have to understand the value of regulation. Coming out of the extraordinary challenge from the Wild West that took place in Wall Street, how important it was for this country to address that so Americans would never again have to go through a financial crisis of that scale. And on a more modest level, if we watch all the discussion we're having today about meningitis, because of the failure of our government to adequately oversee and regulate a discrete part of the pharmaceutical sector, they're two different things. But what they do say is there is a role for the federal government in a regulatory environment, whether it's in Wall Street, whether it's making sure we have safe drugs and safe toys and clean air and clean water. Even Scott Brown understood that the Wall Street crisis called for a response. And we've seen the benefits of that. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is now up and running, has already had some great successes. One is some of the credit card companies were overcharging and money going back to customers.
Mr. Golnik.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau comes under the purview of the Federal Reserve but has no accountability to them and has no accountability to Congress. It's creating a huge bureaucracy that's going to implement regulations that are going to increase cost of doing business that are going to be passed down, again, to the working men and women of this district, of this state, and of this country. And again, I think that the challenges that we face, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and Dodd-Frank did not prevent almost another problem with J.P. Chase this summer with a $6 billion outtrade. So it hasn't worked. I just completely disagree with that. What it has done is increase the costs for the middle class. Once again, the middle class doesn't have free checking. Can you imagine 30,000 pages of rules and regulations that could come out of this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? How is a small regional bank even going to be able to fit compliance with that?
Well, I disagree with Mr. Golnik. Scott Brown disagrees with Golnik. I imagine Elizabeth Warren disagrees with Mr. Golnik. But we have seen the pluses of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau already as it is addressing some of the excesses in the credit card industry, as it has produced a one-page explanation of very complicated mortgage instruments so customers, consumers know what they're signing onto. And actually they're starting to look at the credit rating agencies, and I filed a law that is in some modest way influenced the fact that they are now making sure that customers have access to the credit rating agency scoring on all of their, to the 3 different agencies that exist.
So you see, Representative Tsongas, all Republicans aren't the same and we don't agree on everything.